I use your carbon credits for my third car?
Cap and trade.
To buy 'em.
Do we have quorum? We have enough people to get this over with?
Over with.
Off stage, please.
Oh, sorry.
Didn't really want to get back to work.
It's the highlight of our year.
Before we get started, we have a little business to take care of before the board.
Yeah, I gotta get
meeting.
the
Actually, that's next week, isn't it? 2 weeks?
Funny.
This week.
Yes.
Then for sure, there's a suggestion for a new mission statement. We just need to run it by the staff, get your feedback to Joan on this. The new mission statement is as follows. The mission of Sojourners magazine is to inspire hope and action by articulating the biblical call to racial and social justice, life and peace, and environmental stewardship, because Spider-Man can't do everything. So just get the feedback. Okay.
All right, warm us up.
Yes. As you see, I'm in costume. So try to imagine me as a 14th
We wear that
century
all the time.
semi-Italian.
Great street.
Welcome to the 12th annual Christopher Columbus Day celebration at Sojourners. Or then again, maybe it's our first. I just turned 16. I forget things. Regardless, we're here to answer an important question that the interns asked themselves this morning after telling Sheldon to stop being so perky because they hadn't had their coffee. And that question is, why are we working today? Most of the other interns they know around town are working, so why do they have to? The answer is simple. Because you're special. Let me tell you a secret. A lot of the other interns in the programs elsewhere in the city applied here first but didn't make the cut. They failed an important requirement during their tour of our facilities. They did not show deference to the art director. Be that as it may, we are here to honor Christopher Columbus, a man who many Americans of Italian lineage revere because they think he too was Italian, although he wasn't. Because at that time there was no Italians. There was no Italy, and come to think of it, no authentic Italian pizza, because Marco Polo hadn't brought it back from China yet. Back then, people didn't know from geography. Spain thought there was England, and Spain did a bunch of stuff on the right. China thought there was China, and a bunch of stuff on the left. That's another story. This is the story of Christopher Columbus, a man respected for his boldness, feared for his bravery, recognizable by the fact that he always carried a sword like this wherever he went. And it was a sword exactly like this. A cheap little wooden sword painted silver. It was a sword of his youth, a sentimental object he would never be without. It was this sword that his parents gave to a young Christopher Columbus and told him to use it while performing in the coveted role of Roman centurion at the church Christmas pageant. When he showed up, however, for the Christmas play, he realized that his unfeeling parents had played a cruel joke on him. There was, as most of us know from personal experience, no Roman centurion at the manger during Christ's birth. Columbus would have fled in humiliation from the laughter of the other children, who, to be honest, had absolutely no room for mocking since they looked pretty funny themselves in their father's bathroom. Were it not for a kindly Sunday school teacher who pulled Christopher aside and said he could stand with the other children pretending to be farm animals. Which is why, to this day, there's always one kid in the back holding a sword to his head, pretending to be the unicorn. What, you've never heard of a unicorn in the manger? Well, it's just as plausible as all that other stuff. Lowing cattle? Please. Cattle don't low, they go, Try timing your contractions with that racket going on. Not to mention the other thing cattle do after a big meal we won't even talk about. And do you think there really was a donkey, a bunch of sheep, and in some of your wealthier church plays, a little drummer boy present during the birth of Christ? We're also, of course, led to believe there were shepherds who were both sore and afraid. And wondering why that angel over there kept wanting to talk with them, despite the fact that they had to get their herd to Tucson by morning. Or maybe I was thinking of some other story. But back to Christopher Columbus. You thought I forgot. Despite the struggles and humiliation of his youth, despite the struggles and humiliations of his youth, he grew up to be a powerful sailor that would have garnered the respect of all as he paced aboard his ship, were it not for that stupid little wooden sword, which we think he held aloft during his from his perch on the Santa Maria, as he led his small fleet of ships to discover new lands. Abaft of the Santa Maria, of course, there were his two sister ships, the Nina and the Scurvy, the latter of which sadly did not return to sea after docking in a small Mediterranean coastal town so the crew could trade all its fruits and vegetables for ale, thinking that if they were going to follow a little guy with a wooden sword, maybe they better be in the right frame of mind. Fortunately, Columbus was able to lease another ship, which he renamed the Pinta, figuring that it would look good in history books to have his fleet include a boat called Wanda. But off he sailed, and within a few weeks he discovered not mainland America, but Cuba. Part of the Americas, but the part that Christopher Columbus promptly declared to be China. He even required his sailors to sign, this is true, an affidavit agreeing to this discovery upon penalty of death if they would later deny it. And death at the point of a small wooden sword is a long process. Of course, the Cubans at the time didn't feel they needed to be discovered since they were pre-existing and were just going about their business until this little man with a little sword walked ashore and declared them all Catholic. This surprised the natives, most of which were Presbyterian. Be that as it may, Columbus would return to Spain and report to Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand, the original financial backers of his journey, to India, which he didn't find, and announced that he had found a new route to China, one that was 2/3 shorter than the old one. When asked by the Queen why, instead of spices and gold, he had brought back mainly piñatas, Columbus explained this was a new part of China. Then he passed around the rum and cokes that he also brought back to Cuba, and that pretty much changed the subject. In the meantime, Amerigo Vespucci was on his way to discover the real mainland of the Americas, which, being an educated man with a real sword, he knew was not China, but in fact a completely new world that he would explore in several subsequent trips, which included the first charting of the Amazon River, which is why our continent is named for him and not Christopher Columbus, the little man who discovered a little island, which is today called Cuba, probably after somebody else. Talk among yourselves.
Yeah, you still got it.
I don't see that.
Yeah.
Man's just